Hey guys, it's Yorkie here, and welcome to the channel for some Le Mans Ultimate gameplay, where we're going to be taking a look at the new European Le Mans Series DLC that has just been released today for the game. We are going to be driving the Ligier GSP 320 LMP3 car around Silverstone. We've hopped into an online session, so we've got a mix of various different cars in here. We've got the unrestricted LMP2s. Obviously we've got the GT3s, and then just myself as the only LMP3 car in this lobby. But the practice session is nice and dry. Let's go and quickly take a look at the setup, various different settings for this car. I've already gone and dropped the fuel load down, ready to drive out onto the circuit. We've got the various differential settings here, which are presented a little bit differently to how the hypercars and GT3 cars were presented in the past, and I think also the LMP2s as well. Obviously we've got the traction control settings here. The slip angle I think is linked to either the power cut or the onboard TC, which I think is the longitudinal TC. There is no ABS on this car. We haven't actually driven out onto the circuit yet, so ignore these 100% tires. This is interesting. Different here is the spring rates in comparison to what you usually have had in the hypercars and GT3s in the past, which is just a numerical number from 1 to whatever the maximum was, say 10, 15, something like that. Now we've actually got pounds and inches, and then packers and ride height is now presented in millimeters rather than centimeters. Dampers is presented the same as it was previously, and then toes in degrees as usual, wings in degrees as usual. But the interesting thing here is we've got ARB size and position. Now, the important thing to note with these is as you go up and down, you'll be decreasing or increasing the size and also the strength. Now, one thing that the Le Mans Ultimate developers have done very, very nicely for us here is actually put a numerical value, which I'm guessing is going to represent the overall stiffness. So, take, for example, 14.5 millimeters hard, it's 2086. Softer at 14.5 medium, 1288. And then going down to soft is 873. All makes sense so far, right? Let's go to the next setting. 14 millimeters hard. So a smaller size. We've gone harder. However, we are now at 1813. I guess in points of stiffness, which if we go back is stiffer than the 14.5 millimeter soft and stiffer than the 14.5 millimeter medium, but is softer than the 14.5 millimeter hard. And we'll see this as you go down through, dropping down the settings, that it's like a 3 steps down, 2 steps up, going from each of the various different lengths effectively. So keep that in mind with the setup when you're fiddling with things here in this car. Anyway, let's get ourselves out onto the circuit. And most importantly, we now have TrackIR support, which is very, very nice. I can actually go ahead and look around the cockpit of the car. Obviously, I've tuned my TrackIR settings here, so I'm not moving or looking up and down so much. And it's more just the lateral movement of looking left and right. That is the most important thing. Anyway, let's get ourselves out onto the track, as the mechanic is telling us that we can now go. And let's see what's in store for us. Now, I have been doing some driving before in this car around this track, but it's been mostly in the wet conditions, with a little bit of driving in the changeable conditions of the wet coming into the dry. I haven't driven in these fully wet conditions here as of yet, so this is going to be interesting. Obviously, one thing that we do have to be mindful of is coming straight out of the pits. We don't have any tyre warmers, so we don't have a huge amount of grip at the moment until the tyres come up to temperature, usually in around 60 odd degrees. In most other car classes is where you start to get reasonable amounts of tyre grip from the car. But one thing we can talk about whilst we are bringing the tyres up to temperature is the circuit. As you saw, we started in the old pit lane, the old heritage pit lane as it is now called, rather than here coming out of Club and Vale and onto the Hamilton Straight. where we've got the wing building over there on our left, which is obviously what they use for Formula 1 and MotoGP, and also WEC used to go out of that pit lane when they used to race here at Silverstone years past. So there are differences there, but we are going to be getting the WEC building as, or sorry, the wing building as a pit lane option that we can use. And this is going to be fun and interesting. We'll talk about the differences between the various different car classes and the performance of these LMP3 cars in a bit as we continue to talk about Silverstone. But there are some new buildings here around this, making it the most modern version of Silverstone. So that's the new Silverstone Museum off over there at the back of Luffield. Along here is relatively normal, obviously various different grandstands. That building over there has been there for a little while now, a couple of years, but the biggest difference is coming out of Copse Corner is these villas over here on the left hand side of the track. They are new, as that's a new multi-million, possibly even billion-dollar, I think it is multi-million, complex where people can buy and rent those houses and obviously be able to watch the races as they happen. There is a restaurant and a bar and like a leisure complex where there's a spa, swimming pool and other facilities out there as well. And then of course we also have the new hotel building on the opposite side to the wing building coming onto this straight here. Over there on the left hand side of the circuit where there's a Silverstone store, and we've got the bridge that goes across over to the wing building as well. So there's a few new buildings around here, and of course the curbs and everything else, the runoffs, new, and I think it's the 2024 version which we have here, which will make it the latest one in any sim as far as I know, because 2025 European Le Mans Series only just happened a couple of weeks ago at the time of this pack releasing and this recording. And knowing how long circuits take to actually produce in racing sims, I'm going to guess that it is the 2024 version that we're seeing here. So very nice details around the track. It does feel good to drive on as well. Curbs behave in an appropriate manner. Let's start to talk about this car then. And let's start off with the performance differences that we're kind of demonstrating and illustrating here with our GT3 guinea pig that is here in front of us. Obviously in the corners, because we are in a prototype, we have a lot more downforce, we have a lot more grip, we can go much quicker than the GTs through the turns. But the interesting thing is here on the straights. Look at the performance difference between us two. We're picking up a little bit of slipstream, but we are not breezing past these GT3s in the same manner that we would with an LMP2 car or a hypercar. Straight line performance difference isn't that great between the LMP3 cars and the GT cars. The difference is made in the corners, as these LMP3 cars do have good amounts of mechanical grip, similar to that of the GT3, but they have much better aerodynamics and therefore can take more speed going into corners and more speed at the apexes of high speed and medium speed turns. So that's where the main difference is going to be between those two classes of cars. And obviously we know what the LMP2s are like. We've now got de-restricted versions of them, so there's an additional 50 horsepower there, so they're going to be even quicker in terms of acceleration and straight line speed, which will in turn may increase some corner speeds, not all of them, because I don't think there's any aerodynamic differences between the de-restricted and the restricted LMP2. There have been some tweaks to the LMP2 itself got the new tyre model, so it's now up to the GT3 spec, or similar to the GT3 spec in terms of its technology and all that sort of stuff. They've also had some revised aerodynamics applied to them as well, so they may handle a little bit differently to how they have done in the past, but generally with the improvements that the GT3s had with their new latest tyre model, it should be overall a positive step in the right direction. So yeah, let's talk about and focus on this LMP3 car again. So as I was saying about the performance differences between the GT3s and this car, it's going to make it interesting in the multi-class situations, because although those LMP3 drivers who are, let's say, more skilled and quicker, they probably won't have too much issue driving through the traffic. Those drivers who are a little bit less experienced and a little bit slower towards the back end of the LMP3 field might find it a little bit more difficult to work through the GT3 traffic, especially the faster GT3 guys. That performance difference is going to be much, much smaller in comparison to what we've been experiencing in the past with the LMP2s and hypercars. So I imagine there's going to be some pretty tense, potentially messy moments there in online racing in the future. Hopefully, obviously, people are going to be sensible in and around that, but it's certainly interesting at times in the real world when gentlemen drivers or lesser experienced drivers with all their dentist money hop into these LMP3 cars. Now, earlier on, driving around in the wet, it was quite interesting. It felt like the force feedback was nice and weighty, whilst the car had grip within its initial steering response. So kind of here and here it felt good. As you started putting more steering on, it did slip away in terms of the amount of weight and feel that you were getting through the force feedback. Now, I was curious as to what was actually going on there, whether it is something to do with the overall force feedback of this car, or whether it's specifically tied to the conditions of wet tyres and a wet track. And it certainly feels like that vagueness was tied to the conditions and the tyres. I am pleased to say that whilst driving and talking to you here and now, I can feel where the limit of the grip of the tyres is a bit better than how it was before. Not as much as I would like. I would like to be able to feel where that actual limit is a bit clearer. It's just this, once you get to the top, that little drop down the other side is quite subtle. You can feel it, but it's not quite as distinct as I would perhaps like it to be. However, if you can keep the car within its limits, it is fun and engaging to drive. See what I mean? It's quite difficult and at times to actually figure out when the car's going to go. Now you're probably wondering why the car actually went there. I think it was partially my braking input and probably just the rear end not quite keeping up with the demand of the front tyres. Now this is a car that is acting as a platform, a stepping ladder into prototype racing. It's one of the earlier entry points, and obviously you get a lot of gentleman drivers competing in these cars amongst some younger pros who are aspiring to go up into LMP2 and up into hypercar programs later on in their careers. And because of that, the car isn't quite as easy to drive as you think. A lot of people think that those kind of like feeder series cars are actually meant to be nice and easy to drive, and to an extent they are, yes, but also they do tend to have handling traits and characteristics about them that teaches drivers proper driving technique in order to progress into cars that are more challenging in terms of their overall power output and how physically demanding the car may be and how pinpoint accurate you need to be with your inputs in order to really push and hold the car at the limit. So this car is designed to be a little bit tricky, mainly under braking. That is the main area that it's a bit of a handful. Here we go, much smoother this time. Coming into that, it's a little bit fearful though, getting on the throttle. So yeah, you have to be accurate with your braking inputs to make sure that you are staying within the limits. Now, the default brake bias is 50%. In the wet, I was running it in and around about 47.5. That felt pretty good. I did try 46.5 on the front and then the rest on the rear. In the wet, however, the car very quickly swapped ends on me when I braked hard. And then as the track was drying up, it did start to feel like I needed to move the brake bias a little bit further forward. So let's go ahead and move it to 48. And that feels pretty good. I purposefully kind of held a little bit more brake on there as I started to turn in, just to see what the response of the car was. And as you saw, the rear end did start to get light and want to rotate as we were trail braking into the corner there. So I reckon probably in and around 48.0 to 49 is probably going to be the sweet spot for most people, depending on your skill level. Obviously, the further forwards you have it, the safer the car is going to feel. And then move it slightly further rearwards when it comes to the wet, just so you get a little bit more turn in rotation without the car actually braking away from you. But yeah, it does feel nice driving hard into the corners, leaning on that aerodynamic grip. And yeah, I can start to feel when now a little bit better. Felt a bit of vibration there as I started to slip over the limit of grip. So I think as I'm driving the car more, I'm becoming more in tune with where the limit is on the tyre. It did, as I said, feel a little vague initially, but I'm starting to find it and get the nuances of the car. And look how we can attack coming through here. Obviously, we've got an LMP2 coming up behind us. They've got quite a bit more aerodynamic grip than us, and now with that de-restricted engine, it's going to be able to release that here on the straight. But yeah, it feels fun to drive. I'm going to enjoy driving this one in the next season of the European Le Mans Series Championship, online championship that is. If you don't know already, I do compete in that and the World Endurance Championship, online championship, and stream both of those on their respective evenings. I think ELMS is probably, well, hope it's going to stay on the Monday night, and then WEC will be the Thursday nights. So every Monday and Thursday I shall be streaming those races, so make sure you tune in and catch those in the ELMS series. We're going to be driving this in the next season, the LMP3 car, and then in the WEC Online Championship I'll be driving the GT3, or a GT3 shall I say, as we've done quite a bit of hypercars in the previous seasons. So it'd be nice to step down to that class to see what we can do there and have something a little bit different. And of course, as well, if you want to help and support myself and the channel, down below is a join button. I've now enabled channel memberships here on the channel. It is £5 per month. It's a single tier. It gives you a few various little perks. One of the main ones being the fact that I'll be doing exclusive member-only live streams of mainly my practice sessions in the lead up to each of those races, so you get to see how I go about preparing for those events, learning the circuit, learning the car, how the car handles and behaves around that track, figuring out the setup and getting myself dialed in for each event. And you also get early access to videos pretty much as soon as they get uploaded, rather than 24 hours later, because I tend to upload a video, wait 24 hours and then actually release it public. So those are like the two main bigger perks that you get for becoming a channel member, as well as emojis, a little badge next to your name, and shout outs and all that sort of thing. So those of you who are already become a channel member, you'll be seeing your name at the bottom of the screen now, as well as other points in videos and also the live streams. So thank you to you all, and of course thank you to anyone who does consider becoming a channel member and making the jump, because your support and generosity is very, very much appreciated. Of course, if you don't want to, that's totally fine by me. We'll still be doing plenty of live streams, as I said, on the Monday and Thursday evenings. Those races will be publicly streamed live to absolutely everyone. All the setups, or the final setup that I end up using in those races, will be available to everyone for free as well. They will not be put behind a paywall or anything like that. It's coming into our last lap here, and we've gone to miss the apex for turn 1 quite substantially. But yeah, generosity, your support, following the channel, helping me out and enjoying the videos has very much been appreciated over the years. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you very much for that. But yes, this has been a look at the LMP3 here at Silverstone, as the car is thankfully getting out of the way in the end. And I gotta say, it's a good fun car to drive and push hard. I'm going to look forward to learning more about this car, learning how to set it up, and really getting it dialed in over the coming weeks. And obviously, it's fantastic to see TrackIR now here working in Le Mans Ultimate as well. I'm really looking forward to seeing what other future updates the studio brings. We just about managed to hold on to that. As we're rounding out this video, we're not going to be able to set a new fastest lap here in this one, which is kind of what I was half hoping to do whilst waffling away at the end there. But yeah, let us know your thoughts and feelings. Have you picked up the European Le Mans series? Have you done it just by getting this one pack? Have you done the ELMS season pass? Do let me know. If you've got any comments or questions, feel free to leave those down in the comment section below as well. But until the next time, have fun, look after yourselves, stay safe, take care.